and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I am JP John Poz, and on today's podcast, we have none other than the United Wrestling Network's president, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood owner, CEO, I guess you could say. He's a producer, he's an on-air talent, he's a writer, he's everything, he's an owner, he's everything. He is Mr. David Marquez. Welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling.
Thanks for having me, man. It's going to be a fun time.
It's hard to intro you. You got so many jobs and so many things going on and so many, hot things on the fryer, so to speak. I mean, you got a million things going on all at once. How are you handling it?
It's difficult. And it's difficult to admit that it's difficult.
Right.
So, the Hollywood series, we just went back into production with it 2 Saturdays ago. We produced New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong. We produced Championship Wrestling from Arizona, which is coming back as well. And then I'm silly enough, I went ahead and talked to Billy Corrigan and Thunder Studios to do a live broadcast every week because I'm so smart.
Yeah, you didn't have enough on your plate, so just throw that on there too and make it extra fun for you. Yeah. So how's that going? How's that whole process kind of start? Obviously, September 15th is the big kickoff, FITE TV, Primetime Live, little NWA, but you got some other talent mixed in there as well. Just kind of break that down for us. How did that all kind of come down? It's such a cool thing.
Well, it's actually a project that's been stewing for a while. I was hoping that if we ever had the opportunity to get a network deal, something with a cable company, something like that, that I can convince them to, one, allow us to do it live, but two, to create like a cavalcade all-star show. So there's going to be episodic pieces to it, of course, but then it's like in old pro wrestling, used to hear about the open door policy, like anyone could show up at any time type of a thing.
Yep.
And you don't hear about that much anymore. Everything is really branded, and I dare use the word segregation, but that's what it feels like. Everyone is isolated, and you're either WWE or you're Ring of Honor or you're this or you're that. And even freelance guys who go international, they still are looked at as one company or another, Impact, whatever. So I wanted to present something that allows more talent opportunity to get out in front of a larger audience and on a quality program. So it's not going to be odd to see someone from, it could be someone from Defy Wrestling. It could be someone from West Coast Pro Wrestling. It could be someone from Future Stars of Wrestling. It could be someone from WOW Wrestling. It could be someone from AEW or Ring of Honor or Impact if they choose to participate. The New Japan Dojo here in Los Angeles will be participating, so those guys will be appearing on the program. And it's not necessarily going to. I don't know if I can say it like this, but I guess the easiest way to describe it, it's like a UFC, an MMA or boxing type of a format, where you might see a super middleweight championship match, or you might see, there might be some sort of grudge match in a MMA setting. So, a show might have maybe 2 or 3 championships defended from different areas. And then just great matchmaking, putting people together. I dare call them dream matches or anything like that, because I think that's kind of blown out of proportion. But just really good matchmaking and really good talent. If you can't, hang on 1 second. This is going to be an issue.
Yep. David will be attending to the dog for a second there. So the big NWA pay-per-view, so to speak, will be September 15th on FITE TV, Primetime Live. The headliner...
And in demand, by the way. It's over the air, or it's on broadcasting cable all over North America, English English and Spanish.
So it is a real pay-per-view, not just a internet pay-per-view. It is a real deal pay-per-view.
I'm going to go broke, man. I'm going to go broke going all the way. So.
I love that, though, because, people obviously still love the pay-per-view. And it just, to me, it always sounds more high profile. Like, it's on pay-per-view, And when you say, it's on internet pay-per-view, people are like, not that excited. But now you're saying pay-per-view, it's grander. You have the bigger name. And the headliner, NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis versus Mike Bennett, which is a nice little surprise because Mike hasn't been out there, hasn't been doing a lot of stuff. He's kind of been kept quiet since the WWE release. So it's pretty much a big deal to get him, right? So, talk to us about Aldis versus Bennett because this is shaping up to be a big one.
Yeah, so like I said, you never know who's going to be putting these matches. And, we talked to a lot of people, and they're still candidates for future shows. But the World Championship, the NWA World Championship, is going to be the main event every couple of weeks. And we're going to try to put that fight, prize fight type of a vibe around it. So again, you won't know who Nick is necessarily going to be facing. It will be episodic, of course. So it will go and go, and we're going to try to even add the elements of training and taking time off and coming back and having the rematch and all that kind of stuff throughout the years. Yep. We have 52 weeks of this stuff to do, so we have a lot of time to play with. But yeah, man, it was. We reached out. We talked to a lot of people. Some scheduling didn't work. COVID was an issue too. Some people didn't necessarily want to come and participate because of that. We totally understand and respect it. When Bennett's name came up, we all just kind of looked at each other and was like, yeah, that's the perfect choice.
Yeah, definitely. The fact that, it's not, a monthly thing. It's more of a weekly thing. So you said Aldis necessarily won't be wrestling every week. It might be every few weeks, or whoever the NWA champion is. Not going to say it's definitely Aldis, but it's going to be every few weeks.
But you also have he'll be on the program in interviews and segments and all that kind of stuff. But it's mostly going to be those matches. We're going to pick the opponent, allow them to train, have exhibition matches in between, all that kind of stuff. And then you'll see that big payoff main event. But week after week after week, the NWA champions and the stars of NWA Power will be premiering or will be appearing on the show. So our second week, which I think I have it here in front of me, Thunder Rosa will be defending.
Oh wow!
If she doesn't lose it before then, the NWA Women's Championship. Aaron Stevens will be defending the national title on there. And, the other champions as well. So on top of that, with the United Wrestling Network champions, which are, the Heritage Championship, the United Tag titles, United Television title, the Arizona State Championship, the Percy Pringle Third Memorial Cup, our PP3 Cup, which we have our annual tournament, kind of our money in the bank if people don't follow what we do. And yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity. And I think the best part is the fact that we're on live television, and we can actually add that element of surprise and the importantness of being there, watching the show, seeing what happens. We're not necessarily, and I'll be just very frank with you, we're not looking for the surprise or wow factor in the beginning, because we know it's going to take time for people to catch on to this.
Absolutely.
I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the satellite and cable price is $11.99 a week. I know in Canada it's $12.99 because I've seen that paperwork. And the FITE, there's going to be a weekly number, but they're also putting together a bundle, which subscription bundle, which will allow you to pay a fee for the whole month. I just don't know what those numbers are just yet. It should be available anytime, though, by the way. So
check out FITE TV or FITE.tv for sure for more details. So the initial rumor online that it was a 6-month thing. So now it's actually a year contract technically that this will definitely be going on. Oh, it always is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's always been here. Now let's hope we can last 6 months.
Right.
This is a pretty pricey endeavor. And the way that we're kind of justifying it too internally is and if you see people walking around, it's because this is the office too. So people are still at work finishing the shows. That was the director, Logan Chedwigan of the Strong program for New Japan. So they were just here earlier doing some stuff. So he's finishing some things with them.
Nice.
This is a pretty pricey endeavor. We're committed to it. We're doing everything we can to present the best 90 minutes every week. And again, no affiliations necessarily. It's an open door, and we're really, really trying to present something special and different. A true alternative. People like to say, oh, well, this is the alternative. We're going to make the alternative. This is really the truest alternative there is in reality, because, and it's not just promoter hype. It's just truthfully is. Um, I don't care what acronym you belong to. I don't care what championship it is. I don't care. We have 90 minutes to fill, 52 weeks. So there's a lot of time on there for people. Use it.
So who is necessarily, not to go too much behind the scenes, but who's like booking? Who's in charge? Is Billy Corgan technically overseeing everything? How deep into it is he?
Oh, he's very deep. Billy was the creative force behind Power too. A lot of people don't
Mhm.
realize that he wrote
Yeah,
all of the
no.
Power programs. Um, and then on this program, the NWA pieces, working with me with the matchmaking for regional or national talent that he may not know about to be put in against an NWA opponent. Um, but from a booking perspective or writing, it's myself, Nick Bonanno, Billy Corgan, um, Aaron Stevens, Todd Kennelly, announcer, and from Southern California, people might remember him from a couple of years ago. Name's Chaos, Joey Chaos, who runs Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy. He was a writer early on the Hollywood program with Adam Pearce, and so I brought him back in to help put these pieces together and help manage it.
Very cool. So with all this going on, you said like how basically invested he is. He's writing everything else. I mean, is he like the one that's really kind of the driving force and saying like this needs to be done or that needs to be done, or is it much more, not as strict as far as like what he wants to see? Is it almost like, maybe he's going to experiment a little bit more? You know what I mean? Or is he very stringent on what he wants to see on this program?
He very much has a vision. The show itself, I'm managing the entire show. I'm the executive producer of the show, so the broadcast is mine. Mine in the sense that
Mhm.
I'm the supervisor of the programming.
Right.
When it comes to the majority of the matchmaking, it's really being left up to us. The NWA assets, although we can suggest and 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 contact people and negotiate on behalf of the NWA, he has the final say when it comes to his branding and his championships and that kind of stuff. I just think my history with the organization, it just kind of helps the relationship too, because he knows that I'm not just a one and done type guy. I've been associated. I was an owner, a member, all that stuff, going back to probably 94, 95. So I've been around the NWA a long time, and to be back in it, still in the thick of things. Um, uh, we have a really good relationship, so I can spout some stuff off. If he likes it, he'll sign off on it. If he wants to massage it, he'll bounce it back to me. Then people internally with his camp that he has, So but it's a real big collective. It's working really well.
Now, I see Hammerstone is going to be on the
Hmm.
first show, which is great. He's one of those guys you just look at him like, man, this guy looks like he's a star. He's got a ton of potential. You'll see him on MLW. Is he technically a part of this as MLW? I know he's defending the West Coast title, but
No, it's not MLW. It didn't provide him. It was
oh,
West
okay,
Coast Pro Wrestling.
okay,
He's their champion, and the relationship there is West Coast Pro Wrestling sponsors Championship Wrestling from Hollywood on KGO ABC 7 in San Francisco, and that's their local champion up there. So, and again, if people, I don't expect everybody to know what I do, but
yep,
we have regional versions of our broadcast that are localized with the intention of going to those towns, just like the old way of
yeah,
doing
oh yeah,
live events. So it's kind of a prime time wrestling format, and we premiered that over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, on the CW channel in Memphis, and there it's called Championship Wrestling, presented by Pro Shingle on CW 30, and Maria and Dustin Starr are the hosts of the show, and we've lifted that format that we created together with the TV station and the Stars, and now we have it in San Francisco. We had it in Houston. We have it in Amarillo. Working on putting it on the CW in Tampa that we just got cleared on here recently. So Scott, the owner up there and the sponsor of the program, um, he was enterprising enough to see the opportunity that he couldn't produce a broadcast, but he can utilize the airwaves on a full #1 station in San Francisco, although on at 1 o'clock in the morning, ABC 7. Um, that he can utilize that for his benefit. So, like we were when things were going really well in the beginning of the year, he was getting people signing up for his wrestling class from the commercials that were running, and his web traffic was up and all that kind of stuff. So he's providing the match. Then after it's aired, he can do whatever he wants with the footage. So what we're trying to help create content, like with the NWA too, we're creating additional content for YouTube and their Patreon subscribers, so that we can do our best with churning this stuff out.
To me, it's just interesting because you're like, oh, Hammerstone, I know him from MLW. For me, I'm on the East Coast, so I really know him more from there. But then you throw in Mike Bennett, you're like, wow, this is interesting. Obviously Aldis, everyone knows him as NWA World Champion, but throwing the different talents in from all over the place. You're right; it has that kind of old school feel to it, almost like a Super Clash kind of thing, where AWA beats NWA. You're throwing in different guys. You're throwing in Memphis. You're throwing in World Class. It just seems like that kind of feel. That's initially as soon as I saw Hammerstone, was immediately what I thought of, and even a guy like Mike Bennett, who's a free agent, but really kind of a cool Super Clash kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping every week people will tune in for that novelty and that variety. We're going to do everything we can to book people that folks want to see, like Chris Dickinson. Chris Dickinson's booked on the show.
Oh yeah, yep. Got to mention him. Yeah,
a lot of people haven't seen him in a mass capacity either. The dude's intense. And we don't have any FCC regulations, so I have no idea what this guy's going to say or do. So on broadcast TV, we would have to silence him here. Go ahead, go do what you want. And then from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, or the United Wrestling Network, we have kind of a grudge match on our broadcast. So it's the Wolf Zaddies, Tito, big bad dude Tito, and Che Cabrera. And once you see them, I know a lot of people have no idea who they are necessarily unless you watch our programming. Intense guys, very intense, big dudes. And they're going to go up against the Tribe. So that's Hawaiian Lion and Navajo Warrior, two veterans from Arizona.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if there's anyone that's going to steal that show, it might very well be that match.
Love that.
Oh, and then also, I don't think this has been announced, but Camille will be facing Heather Monroe.
Oh, nice. Yeah, very cool.
So we still have some things to put out there in the public that haven't gone out yet. But
very good. Now with Heather Monroe and all this other stuff, we just saw her on AEW, and now Thunder Rosa we're seeing on AEW. Is there a relationship between the NWA and AEW at this time?
Yeah, there's a relationship with all of us. It's that's the interesting part of wrestling today. Like, I've been in wrestling for 30 years, and I've had relationships with promoters and matchmakers all over the world, all throughout that time, WWE, whatever. We all have great relationships. It's just like the public and the internet has now put us against each other in this odd rivalry that's not necessarily there. So Heather Monroe, for all intents and purposes, is one of my talents. She's in every one of my shows, all that kind of stuff. Peter Avalon or Scorpio Sky, they came out of us, and now they're there. I think those relationships are allowing these people to get around. And so Corrigan and AEW, they got together. They told me about it, of course, that this is something we were going to do. And I think in the future, we will be seeing more interaction between with them, or again, with Ring of Honor or Impact or whomever. So it doesn't matter what the acronym is, just as long as someone wants to send a match, quality, entertain the people.
Yeah, because it's pretty shocking when we saw Thunder Rosa show up, that she was going to be fighting Sheeta at the pay-per-view for AEW stuff. So, I mean, that was a pretty cool shocker. So it's one of those things where it's like, wow, I guess, like you were mentioning, like, I guess there is not that segregation, or like, no, you work here and I work here. AEW seems very open, even though they're, national TV and on TNT, and they're all over the place and they're huge right now. It's good to see that they're open to working with, the NWA and different talents too. I mean, that's just great I think it's great for wrestling.
Absolutely. We have to, it's interesting again, and I use that word a lot because I've been around it so long, but I'm still young. I'm only 47, but I've been around it for so long. And when I came in at the end of whatever were the territories, and I got started with Harley Race and Gordon Soley and in the Midwest as my business partners, that's my mentality. And then when I start seeing companies that are out there, so again, whether it's Evolve or Beyond Wrestling or any of these companies, territories exist. They're just not called territories anymore because that's a bad word. It's a bad term, just like Carney's a bad term, all of a
Right.
sudden.
Yeah.
Generations have put different definitions on things. So instead of going to the California territory or whatever, they come to Marquez, or they go to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. If they go to the East Coast, they may be going to Evolve versus going to Florida or New York or something.
Right.
So it's just the nomenclature has changed, but the idea is still there, and people are actually making money popping around. Or they were making money popping around and going to different areas, companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned Chris Dickinson. I forgot to mention him before. That's another one. He's a kind of big on the East Coast, so I'm very familiar
That's
with
right.
him. But one of those guys where it's like maybe a lot of people haven't necessarily heard of them, but they will soon. So that's one of the things where it's almost going to be a breeding ground where you guys are going to find what you've been doing this for many, many years. You bring up these guys, they become big stars, or kind of up and coming big stars.
Sure.
Is that a big, a part of you guys too? You want to create these own stars, but almost create them for yourselves and create them for this pay-per-view series.
Sure. It's so difficult. Like, people like to say they're my guys. I try not to
Hmm.
say that because they're not. We don't have them under contracts, which is how we lose everybody because we can't afford to keep everybody
Right,
under
right,
a contract.
right.
Um, so when we're my whole mission anymore, I don't want to save the world necessarily. I don't want to, I'm not looking to be this grandiose giant juggernaut of professional wrestling. I figured out, I believe, how to do a regional television show, get it out nationally or internationally, make it make money while creating talent so that they can go on and get a real job, something that's going to take care of them and their families. Not to say we're a minor league or anything like that, because that's one of the things that I really hate when I'm talking to people, because they're always like, man, it's great that you're the stepping stones to the WWE and you're a minor league. It's like, no, 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 no. I'm not a minor league. I am equal to them 100%. They just have a hell of a budget. If
Yeah.
I had that budget, my show would look exactly like theirs. So don't paint us that way. Same thing with the term independent wrestling. Like, I hate that. It just, the audience that watches my show and most pro wrestling television shows is an older audience. The demos are probably mid 40s and older because younger people don't watch television the way they used to. So you trying to educate people, older and younger, but this is why I went with the traditional real pay-per-view channels with in demand, was because I knew older people might watch it, especially NWA fans.
Yes.
It's interesting when you watch the power shows, there are no children in the audience.
Hmm. Yeah. Good
No
point.
children at all.
Yeah.
They're all adults. So there's that nostalgia factor, and that's what we have to sell this on, hoping that then other people in the house, younger people, will check it out and be like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." Even WWE is having that issue, trying to create new fans. I don't think it's their creative or anything like that. I just feel that the fans are not just regenerating themselves like they used to. So
Did you find it a little funny that WB was forced to do the studio style looking show, but your show looked so much better because that's what you guys are used to that. You know what I mean? Like they tried to almost copy that kind of style and it just looked terrible. You
yeah,
guys obviously mastered, you've been doing it for years, the studio style. So it's funny people think like, oh, studio wrestling, WB, oh, they're gonna nail this. But did not look good at all. Did you find that funny at all?
I did. It was interesting too because I used the AEW before they moved permanently where they're at now in that amphitheater, and the WWE show out of the PC, and my show as in the sales tape, and I put all three of them together.
Mhm.
It press play, said outside of the icons and the trademarks, you couldn't tell which show was which. And I make sure to pick the same sequences that the guys were doing.
Yeah,
So it was
right, right, right.
identical in every
Yep,
screen.
yep.
Um, and yeah, no, it was pretty humorous because they have billions of dollars. They have all the resources. They own all the equipment. and they had a real tough time versus me, who comes from a local television background, and I might have to do a tele-auction or a pledge drive or a telethon or election coverage on a newscast, and I have to build a set quickly and make it look as good as we can with no money.
Right.
So yes, so we have become experts at blocking, creating an expectation, and then hopefully delivering beyond that expectation with the camera clarity and audio and making sure that, because again, I feel that a modern wrestling fan or an independent wrestling fan, they're savvy, but they're not experts on what they're looking at. So they're used to looking at bad video and bad audio. So if you can present something that's lit correctly and you could hear it and there's multiple cameras, then they'll accept it and eat it up and go like, oh, these guys are pros, even though we are, but they'll put us on just a little higher pedestal.
I just love, though, if you put everybody on the even playing field, like you were saying, there is no they're better than me. If you even it out, it especially with that studio look that you guys obviously perfected, it's interesting. I just kind of chuckled at it, like, wow, WWE kind of dropping the ball a bit on something that they should have been more proficient at.
That's right, and they've trumped all of us. That Thunderdome is beautiful.
Yep.
I wish I could have that. That was, and then the interesting part was I was trying to do that same technology prior to the NBA and all that, and we were trying to hook it up in our facility, and we just couldn't figure out the technology to make it work properly without it crashing and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just happy they did it, and they deserve it. I mean, they are who they are, and they certainly get a license, so they have to justify those billions of dollars they're taking from people. So. No, they did something beautiful. That's Disney-esque what they did.
Yeah.
It was real pretty.
I think Kevin Dunn was probably like, man, Vince, just let me take over the production. This is not good. Let me do my thing. And obviously the ratings have gone up too for them, which is a good sign. Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely a good sign.
And and the network, I'm sure, got involved. I'm sure someone at Fox was like, we gave these guys $1 billion. It can't look like it's coming out of some wrestling school.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yep. Now, New Japan, you're talking about them as well. New Japan's strong. I was actually just talking to Rocky Romero about this as well. New Japan is thrilled with you guys and kind of what you've been able to do for them and how great it is that not only because, the American guys, the guys over here, not all necessarily American, but, Kenta and all the American stars, all the gaijins that are over here, they're able to have a show for New Japan World. They're able to still wrestle and do it, but not get over to Japan because legally, they can't fly over there. So how important have you guys been to New Japan right now? Because I mean, we're seeing these great talents that are out there that are part of New Japan, just not in Japan.
That's right. I don't know if we're important to them. I know that we really, 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 really helped them out, and and allowed them to achieve something out of the LA dojo. Again, people may not know my history. For 5 years, I was a vice president for New Japan. So I ran the original LA dojo, which Rocky was a young boy at the time. And now Rocky's the boss over here. So when they first approached me, they knew we had the space. They knew our capabilities. They knew the editing. They knew everything we had. And Rocky, he approached me. He goes, well, how can we do this economically and that we can show Tokyo that we can produce too? And I know what that means because I used to sit in his chair. So, America's America and Japan's Japan. And of course they can do, this is me talking, no one else. They can do everything better and whatnot. And they have their studio show there that they're doing or was doing, which is fair. But we, like you said, we know how to block. We know how to specifically shoot in a small vicinity and make it look like a Tokyo Dome or make it look grandiose with tricks. So I know we've helped them, but they've helped us too because they allowed us to get back into our facility because we weren't doing it at the time. And all the COVID procedures are the ones that we put together with New Japan. So they helped us out too. So it's mutual. And then, like I said, in the United Wrestling Network syndicated programming and the Primetime Live show, those guys, when they're available, will be on the programs. So it's a fun trade.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win for everybody, and it's great to see, Kenta and Jeff Cobb and David Finlay, Brody King, all these guys being able to wrestle when they can't get over to New Japan, which they would be on a 3-week tour or 4-week tour right
That's right.
now, and kind of going through all the shows, and obviously the Japanese are still going strong, so it's great that you guys can still go strong with them. So Rocky and you, I mean, you guys are doing a great job. Do you think that, let's just say everything kind of goes back to normal? You think that there will still be a strong relationship with New Japan given, the circumstances of everything?
Oh, I think so. I don't know if it'll be in the same in our facility, but I'm sure we'll still be the production house for them unless they get something somewhere where they have to use a proprietary team. Um, no, we understand each other. We know each other for a long time. I've known Rocky for at least since 1999. So there's a great relationship there. Yeah, I don't see us straying. And when you said we're helping each other, even people from the Hollywood program, uh, Ryan Taylor, or I'm sorry, Rust Taylor now,
Hmm.
um, Jordan Clearwater, Adrian Quest, Danny Rivera, they're all Hollywood regulars, and now they're being seen in a different light on the New Japan program. So again, it's like that territorial build. What used to be in the magazines, now you can
Yep.
watch streaming. So it's just different the way that it's being consumed.
Just be interesting to see, whoever from New Japan on Primetime Live or something too, and throw them in there, or Nick Aldis, has a challenge somebody, and somebody from New Japan comes in. That's just another kind of cool wrinkle that could be thrown into the show.
That's right. From a matchmaking standpoint, me being a matchmaker and a producer, like in my head, it's like, can we get Moxley defending the New Japan United States title on the show? Can we,
Right.
will my friends, the Good Brothers, show up some way, somehow through the New Japan relationship?
Yep.
So yeah, that's how I'm looking at. At least that's what I'm hoping for. And then from an international standpoint, I'm working out deals with promotions overseas. So we have Middle Kingdom Wrestling in China,
Yep.
EPW in Perth, Australia, where they are running shows too with named talent that can't get back to the States, much like the New Japan guys can't get back to Tokyo. So I'm hoping if the quality is there and everything that they can supply us matches with like Mikey Nichols, who was in the WWE for a while at NXT
Oh
with
yeah,
Shane
he's
Higgs.
great. Yep.
Yeah, and he's a New Japan guy too. So I'm hoping I can get those matches, get those and run those on Primetime Live as well. So, I really want to make a wide world of sports diversity and variety and just make it a not a traditional pro wrestling program. I really want people to look at this like a real all-star show. Like, man, that was really cool. I would never have seen Amazing Kong in a little person mixed tag match. Like, I
Right.
just,
Right. Yep.
just give that old Georgia Championship Wrestling like 1983, 84, 85, where Dick Slater might be the Florida State champion and then Bugsy McGraw might be the Memphis champion or whatever. And they're on WTBS fighting each other, getting ready to go to somewhere else in Florida for the Battle of the Belts or something. So,
Right.
that's kind of my mindset of how to set all this stuff up.
Good stuff. I can kind of think of a former WCW champion that's out there that you've used before that may be in line for a NWA title shot. Not NWA, but using like David Arquette or something. I mean, that would just be
Yeah.
another kind of a fun thing that you could probably throw in there as well. I mean, not saying
Oh,
I'm,
for sure.
looking, but
No,
just
no,
an
no, no.
example of a guy. Yeah,
We
yeah.
have already been in conversation about it, he
Oh,
and
oh,
I.
great. Okay.
So yeah. So when his availability is there, I'm sure you'll see David on the show. I have different roles that I'd like him to play, and we've come up with different ideas for him outside of being an in-ring talent,
Hmm.
but a personality on the program.
Yep.
So we're working that out. He made his movie. I don't think his wife wants him getting thrown around anymore.
Yeah. It's funny, and I just mentioned this to David, his producer, not David Arquette, but his
Yeah, yeah,
producer,
yeah.
because I a few years ago we did a wrestling convention, 2-man power trip con in Richmond, Virginia. I got to watch the documentary. Actually, I'm going to hopefully watch it tonight. I want to see if any of those parts are in that documentary. I believe it is, but
I think they are.
So he was promoting, this is years ago, he was promoting a documentary about prisons. So I was talking to him and I said, all right, enough about the prison. Let's talk about wrestling. So then we started talking about a half hour or so of just strictly wrestling. And he goes, you know what? He goes, I think you're sparking something here. So I don't know if he was joking with me, Reddy had the idea in mind, but I always kept talking about wrestling. So I don't know if I'd sparked it, Reddy had the idea. So I mentioned David Darg, his producer. They came to the convention. He goes, this is his first ever wrestling convention. So he was literally signing for free for the fans. He was buying something from all the tables. I mean, what an unbelievable nice guy. He's talking to us. He did backyard wrestling with us.
That's
We
all.
got
Now that's all in it. That is
okay,
in the
good.
movie.
Okay, good,
All of
good.
that's in the movie.
Okay.
But David, a lot of people want to downplay him. He's very smart.
Mhm.
Very, very smart. Uh, methodical even. He belongs in wrestling. He is a wrestler the way he thinks. And when we got involved in it, we did all his training. Peter Avalon was his trainer. Um, we did the match with RJ City on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and
Yes, yes, great
that
match.
allowed
Yep.
them to go around the country tagging and everything. Actually, over the world, they went to Mexico, I think, and Canada with it. But yeah, I think David probably had it in his head already.
Yeah, I think he was working me a little. Yeah.
Dude's a smart guy. He's a real smart
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, he's like, I think I have something in mind for wrestling stars. He may have been working me a little bit, like, oh, you may have sparked him, but I messaged, the director Dave, and I said, oh, I was the one that did it, just messing around just to see what he would say. And he's like, oh, I'll pass it along, to Dave and stuff. But he is such a nice guy because after that whole he's filming and everything in Richmond, I actually set him up for like initial training. I know he had training before in WCW, and then eventually we go into you guys for some real
Yeah,
training.
yeah.
But literally, it was the backwoods of Virginia in literally the middle of nowhere. I'm not sure if
That's in
this
the
is.
movie too.
Oh, it
That's in
is
the picture
okay.
too.
Good,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent. You know what he did? This is dead serious. He took the broom and was sweeping. I don't even know if they were filming. He swept the ring and everything, and I don't think they were filming at this point. But maybe they made him go back and do it again. I'm not sure if this made it, but he literally
Maybe.
was like acting like a young boy, like sweeping and cleaning. And what do you guys need? Like, I'll do this. And like, I'm like, we're in the middle of nowhere in some, crappy little ring. And this is a huge, huge Hollywood star. And he's taking it super serious, like taking the bumps, cleaning the ring, making sure everybody's happy, making sure he did it right, make sure he ran the
Yep.
ropes right. I mean, he's such a humble guy. Crazy.
He helped us with the ring too. Yeah. So
Really? Wow. Okay.
oh yeah, the fun part is you made the picture. I was cut out. So
Oh, yeah. Nice. I
I'm
got to
cut out
watch it.
completely. So
Oh, that's bullshit though. But that's great. Now I definitely got to damn it. I got to watch it. He's
I
just so
went all
cool.
the way to a drive-in, an hour and a half away for the
Man.
premiere. Took my nephew, his wife. I'm like, look, I'm gonna be in a swap
Yeah.
meet
Yeah.
thing. Look.
Yep. Yep.
Not at all.
Wow, I can't believe that. Come on. He screwed you. He screwed you. He is. I mean, he's just such a nice, humble guy. But
He is a Bischoff guy.
oh, okay, all right, all right, easy E, all right. With though, different, surprise guys and this and that. Where I mean, we're talking like New Japan, AEW, free agent. I mean, whoever could show up. I mean, you just never know. With you, do you have like a guy in mind? Not just saying like he has a contract, but is there a guy in mind where you're like, this guy needs to be a part of the show? He wasn't on Power, not necessarily a free agent, or not necessarily like WWE guy, but you have somebody in your mind like this guy would fit the direction of where I want to go. It could even be like a celebrity, not our cat,
Sure,
but just like a
sure,
guy
sure.
that he's on your mind. Where like he fits this, and maybe you didn't reach out to him yet, but is there somebody in mind where you want
Well,
him on
yeah.
the show?
Well, for years it was Chris Dickinson. It's interesting how I met him. Drew Gulak and I are good friends, and when Drew was on our show, they come out to California to be on PWG, and Chris was booked just I think last minute to replace someone. And in true indie wrestling fashion, there were no accommodations for them, and that happens a lot. So they didn't want to get a hotel, so they called Uncle Dave, and they came to the spare room and the couch, and that's how I met Chris. And I was really excited to meet him because I had heard about him, but he was just a great guy. And then Drew was putting him over and stuff. So there's that. Then there's this influencer online, and her name is Tammy. I don't know if you've seen Tammy. She plays kind of the white trash. There was like a promo going around recently. I don't, maybe Roscoe or something, but she dresses really white trash, hillbilly.
Hmm.
Always has a cigarette hanging out of her mouth. Really big chested, usually in her car when she talks. Perfect pro wrestling personality. Perfect. If there was an influencer, I want her. She is amazing. Um, but I'm pretty lucky. I have a really big Rolodex, and I have a lot of relationships. Carl Anderson and Gallo, I'd love to have them on the program. I'd really like to get my old team back together. So Finn Balor and the Australians, and there's just so many people over the years that I'd really like to, give them a better opportunity than what I originally gave them 15, 18 years ago.
It's funny, a mutual friend of ours, I mentioned this guy's name. He was on Fox for one season. I believe he set some sort of record for a reality show. It was like 40 million viewers or something. And I was like, this guy should have been in pro wrestling. And eventually, obviously, I've interviewed him. I found out he did actually train in pro wrestling, but Joe Millionaire. I mean,
Oh
I always thought
yeah,
I was
sure.
like, man, he would be perfect, to kind of whatever, because I think he's out in the West Coast. Yeah, actually, I know he is. He's out in the West
Well,
Coast. I
we
mean,
we we worked with him with Rick Bassman at
yep,
UPW.
yep, yep,
He was there during the Cena time, so
yeah,
or
yep.
right after Cena. But yeah, no, Evan, I worked with Evan.
Hmm. Yep. Evan Marriott. Yep. Oh, of course. Yeah. UPW. Of course. Your UPW days. I can't forget that.
Yeah, I produced all those great tapes. So it's funny we bring that up. There's so many young people that I work with now, and I'll hear them talking about how they got started or got influenced or whatever. They always talk about the Discovery Channel show we did,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
talk about the Inside Pro Wrestling VHSs we made, and
Yes.
I produced all those. And so I hear all these these guys and girls talking about it, and it just makes me laugh. I usually don't come out and say, "Well, I produced those," but it's just
were
funny
you?
because there's a lot of people.
Were you? Did you produce the one with Harley Race? Like when Harley Race did his series, kind of the surprise wrestling thing.
No, but I was working with him during that time. Those are the
Okay.
UPN shows, I think.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
the people who made the magic shows. And
Yes.
I
Yep.
remember all that. Harley was telling, he's like, I think I'm going to go and break kayfabe for the first time in my career. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, this network out in LA wants me to come out and talk about the insides workings of wrestling. And I said, okay, well, whatever. They said, they're going to disguise me. I said, okay, whatever. And he says, I'd like you to come out with me to make sure that it's not too exposing. I said, all right, great. So I came out and we get into we get into the studio. They put makeup on him and everything. And then they hand him a pair of sunglasses that's already too small for his head. And he goes, what are these supposed to be? And they're like, well, we said we disguise you. And he goes, sunglasses? Yeah. You don't have a hood. You don't have makeup. No, these sunglasses. Okay. He goes, millions of people all over the world have seen me in sunglasses, so they're going to know exactly who it is. And I'm sitting
Right.
like off camera. He said, the moment you open your mouth, they're going to know who you are. So it doesn't matter. Paid him really well, and he got a lot of flack for it.
Oh yeah, big time. But Vince was on TV. Vince McMahon was on TV and exposed, like, hey, a few times saying that this is not real. This is sports
Sure.
entertainment. So it is interesting that Harley,
I
old
Yeah. Well,
school guy, got flack for it.
I think it's a big difference though, because it's like believing in Santa Claus. You have this rough and tough guy, Harley Race, who for let's say at that point 45 years, I'm the toughest guy on earth, God's green earth, all that stuff,
Hmm.
8-time world's champion. The South, the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, those people who live in those areas are very protective, and they're very loyal to what they believe in, whether it's religion or politics or wrestling. So um, it, that's why I think he had that NWA WCW ness to him,
Hmm.
and people. I know people watching this who are younger might not understand how real wrestling was versus what wrestling is today. So, and Harley breaking that was just like, no, that guy didn't part the Red Seas. You've been reading that book and it's nothing. So Harley, he told on the gospel. Vince, on the other hand, he was always cartoons and he was always over the top. And, whether he's on Donahue or Larry King or whatever, it was just, oh, that's Vince McMahon. He's show business. But Harley Race is real. I've seen it.
True.
I was there. His sweat and blood got on me.
True. So when you were working with him and you and Gordon Soley and, how young were you in the business at this point? Like what year is this? And like, what was you were the producer basically?
I own the company.
Oh, so you're part owner. That's okay.
Yeah. This was in Springfield, Missouri. I would have been 20, early 20s. That was freelancing for WCW and doing stuff with Corey Macklin, not heavy stuff, just around. And I worked in television. I was in news, local news, but wrestling just kind of happened, and I ended up with a wrestling show, and I turned it into a thing called World Legion Wrestling in Missouri. And I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I went out there to work in TV. And it just kind of all came together. And so I hired Gordon Soley as the commentator, the announcer, and Harley Race as the booker. And that's how our relationship started.
Interesting.
And we were together for, I don't know, probably 2 years. Harley ran the company. He bought me out. Gordon died, so he was gone. Harley bought me out in 99. I came back to LA. And then I started working for Rick Bassman. Yep. Terry Taylor and Bruce Pritchard suggested I go there. And so then I went there and became their producer and director. But Harley ran the company until he died. And he changed the name. It's kind of funny. It was World Legion Wrestling always. And he always called it World League. And so that's
World League Wrestling.
Day, World League Wrestling. Yep. That was my company.
Nice. I was at the last autograph signing for Harley in Philly. And if you know where the ECW arena is in Philly, obviously, he's like, where is this? Like looking around as he gets out of the car with his son. And me and his son look at each other. We're like, is he crazy? Is he like losing? Like, what's going on? Yeah. And we're like, Philly. He goes, smells like it. And I was like, just being totally like sarcastic with it. I was like, I thought he was slipping there for a second, But then he goes, this doesn't look like the Philly. And then he goes, where's the Spectrum? We're like, it's that way. It's knocked down or whatever. He goes, this doesn't look like the Philly I remember. Like, so it was just, funny Harley Race.
Yes. No, Harley was great. I learned so much from him, what to do, what not to do, a lot of what not to do.
Right. Which is important too. Yep.
Yeah. And over the years, we had a really fun father-son type relationship where he'd get really upset at me and not speak to me for a while. But then when we'd see each other in person, it was a great embrace. And what's going on? How are you doing? How's your grandmother? Like, he knew my family. And then up to the end, we were talking pretty regularly. And then the family asked me to be a pseudo spokesperson to get information out right before he passed. And so and going to his funeral was tough. That was really tough looking at him. The funny part is Harley rarely smiled, and in the casket he had a smile on his face, which we all laughed about.
Right.
So either he was really at peace or he was like, well, shit, I did it. This is it. Yeah. He was holding his version of the NWA World Title in the casket. It was very nice.
Oh wow, didn't know that. Wow, very cool. Nice. He easily one of the all-time greats. I mean, that goes without saying. Just awesome. I love your kind of history in wrestling, not only with him, but I didn't know this. You work for WCW as well. So you were freelance production?
Yeah, production. Whether they needed a camera operator or whatever, or help with shows, if Harley was involved with the show, or hey, go over here and talk to this person, and stuff like that. Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri.
So pay-per-views, TV, like
House shows
everything.
mostly, but
Mostly
yeah,
house shows. Okay.
yeah, and that's where I learned how to do a lot of this stuff. Was just sitting there, how to deal with the commissions, what licenses are. At the same time, I made a great relationship with Ed Schumann in Chicago. He's passed. He's been gone for probably about 11 years now, but he was my big cheerleader in the NWA too. So he and Bob Trowbridge became very good friends during the Howard Brody, Dennis Carluzzo version of the NWA in the mid to late 90s, post Shane Douglas.
Yep.
It's all that stuff. So yeah, no, I've been around, and people sort of know me, which I kind of like that they don't know everything.
Right.
But it's still weird being a pseudo celebrity when you go somewhere wrestling related, and I'm getting the, well, I've been watching you since I was a kid. In reality, I guess 30 years and probably 23, 25 years I've been on air television. So someone somewhere who was 8 or 10 when way back then,
Yep.
they would say that.
Will you be on TV for Primetime? Are you going to be an on-air talent?
Yes. So originally, I was not going to direct the show. I was going to produce and be on camera. I never wanted to be back on camera. I've had 2 strokes.
Oh wow!
And
Didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, you can kind of see it in just troops every once in a while. So my protege, Billy Trask, he was directing the Hollywood program, and I was originally going to direct the Power program. And then Corrigan and Lagana asked me to be the host. And I really didn't want to do it because I have a really bad short-term memory problem. So if I don't scribble things down, like you should see my desk, there are just notes and things everywhere. Reminding me like every little bit to do. It's everywhere. So if I don't write it down immediately, I will forget it. Long term is great. Short term is very difficult. So I was afraid that I was going to make them look bad because I know how wrestling works. Immediately, hey Dave, come here. Go say this. I don't think I'll be able to remember that. So in the beginning, it was a little difficult going back on camera. And I was on camera for years on the Hollywood program, but I took myself off because I was forgetting things. And if you go back and watch those older tapes, you'll see me struggling trying to get through an open or trying to get through an interview or trying to remember the angle. It just wasn't working. So I said yes, and I did it. And the public, I guess, really liked it. So I will be back on there. So, so when they asked me not to direct, I went into that, and then they asked me to be a ring announcer, which I'd never done before. And people really either liked my ring announcing or hated my ring announcing. And the reason why it was so blatant and slow was because I didn't want to mess anything up. And I'm honestly reading off of a card every word that needs to be said in a tone, in a dialect, and delivering it in a way that can be consumed by everyone. I wasn't messing up. There's a few flubs on the show too. If you go back and watch, you'll hear me say "excuse me." I'll say the wrong name or I'll say the wrong thing, but they liked it because it gave it more of a live element. I hated ring announcing. I'd never ring announced ever. I thought I was horrible at it, but people seemed to like it. But on the Power Show, Billy Trask right now is in Vermont. That's where he's from. And so he went home because he had a family issue, and then COVID happened, and he hasn't come back to LA. And I don't think he's going to be back for Primetime. So it looks like I'm going to be enlisted again to direct, which I don't mind. I'll direct the show, and then we'll do what we call look lives, where I'll be on tape.
Oh, okay.
It'll be a recording of me.
Right.
I'll be calling the show, but yes, I'll be on the program. Probably on the top of the show.
Do you like doing like the backstage interviews with the guys? The backstage interviews with the guys stuff, because it seems like a great role for you. And I loved you on Power. No, you kind of went with Mooney a little bit, but I don't know. I think you were kind of better suited in that role for that show. It just fit better to me, anyway.
So like I used to stutter as a kid. I had a really bad stuttering problem. Um, and growing up, I always looked at performers for inspiration. So my pinup fella in the room, literally pinned up on the wall. People have cars. People have, later it's girls, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I had Walt Disney, and
Oh, nice.
it wasn't because of Disneyland necessarily, or I wanted to be an animator originally. Not how many people have China markers in their hand to write notes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I originally wanted to be an animator, and that's what I wanted to go and do. It didn't happen. It didn't work out. But since I was a kid, Walt Disney on television, to me, it's just weird the way he used to talk to you on
Mm-hmm.
the show. And I wasn't, I was born, I guess, 6 years after he died. He died in '66, but he was still on television. So to me, he was still very much alive. And
Yep.
then when he talked to you, and then the way he talked to you, and he'll tell you about all these great things that are coming, and oh boy, look at this. This is the animate, inanimate, and this is how animation, whatever. I started developing my own how to get out of stuttering. I used to read the newspaper out loud and just get through like the first section of the paper, and then I'd watch newscasters. Here in LA, we had Jerry Dunphy, the announcer Ernie Anderson, who was Paul Thomas Anderson's dad. He was the voice of ABC. Like you hear announcers all the time try to do his voice or make fun of him. He was like the next time on the Love Boat. He was that guy.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but he was our local ABC announcer for the news. So he'd be on TV and he'd be like, Channel 7, ABC TV, Los Angeles, now for the Southland's leading. And I'd sit there as a kid and, say it with him. So if I were performing, I didn't stutter. So picking up tones from Walt Disney, Ernie Anderson, Peter Jennings, Mr. Rogers, that's kind of how I created my on-air persona. And like a lot of people, it's always a fun backhanded compliment. It's like, oh, David does such a great, old school impression. When I was growing up on television, that's how everyone looked and sounded.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
Big time.
so it wasn't. It wasn't. This isn't an impression. And if people know me, it's an awful lot like me, because that's what I grew up with. So I do my best to put out a clean presentation with a nice wink behind it. That I'm the guy with the microphone. I'm asking these questions, but I can get away with saying certain things to talent that most people can't say. Much like a Gene Okerlund,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
or a Gordon Soley. Like we can give that wink to the camera, and then I'd mug for the camera. I'd play along with them in that Dick Clark way on American Bandstand. So he'd be there with the Bangles, and like I don't know if he was really interested in hearing what the hell the Bangles had to say, but he sure was really into that interview. And versus Don Cornelius, who would show up and then disappear, like you never saw the man again. And then when he showed up, he was just cool, and the show was
Yeah.
over.
Yep.
So yeah, so I had a lot of influences on television that I took with me. And you asked if I like doing it. I do like doing it because I know that I can get the right responses out of the talents because they're
Yep.
comfortable with me,
Which is
and
huge. Yep.
they're very comfortable with me, and I know a lot of them for many years. I have been their boss most of the time versus being on camera with them, and so they almost, in a way, they don't want to mess up either in front of the boss. So like Colt Cabana, like he and I can go out there and just do shtick, like no problem. Like Adam Pearce and I used to do way back when.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Now he's a mailman.
That was weird. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So anyways, I guess I'm just a utility guy in that sense. Do I like doing it? Yes and no. I don't like to do many takes because then in my head I start messing up and forgetting
Right.
what's going on. And it's not that I mess up, it's usually the talent messes up, and I get it and I don't get upset. But yeah, like one of the powers, I can't remember which one, it could have been the pay-per-view. I had a complete, like I was taken to the back by the medics, and they were checking my blood pressure, and
Oh my
like
God.
I was having an episode on camera.
Wow.
Cabana,
Oh my
I remember
God.
Cabana coming out for an interview, and he was like, "Hey, Cabana," and he goes, "Are you all right?" And I was like, am I not all right? Like I wasn't conscious.
Yeah.
Corgan comes out during a commercial. He's like, yeah, you don't look good. Okay, I said, let me get through the next thing. And then Lagana was in my ear. Lagana's like, hey, you need to come to the back and see the doctor. Like, whoa. And that's when Kyle Davis,
Wow.
I think it was that show that Kyle Davis took over at the podium for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I did not know that. Wow.
And
Everything's
that could
okay
be a
now,
reason.
though?
And oh yeah, everything's fine. That could be a reason why Sean Mooney showed up too. I never asked,
Oh.
but
Oh,
that
okay.
could be a reason to limit those last set of tapes. I was on camera less.
Yep.
I was producing more in the back, but I was on camera less,
Because you
which I
fit
wasn't upset about.
NWA. Yeah, bro, gotcha. You fit NWA more, obviously. You have a history there. Mooney is the WWF guy, so that's why it's a little bit, to me, obviously, it's a little wonky, but it's just good because he's a name, so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it
yeah.
adds
Oh,
name value
for
too.
sure.
Yeah.
No, we had a great time together, Sean and I. And then when Jimmy Cornette and I were doing it, when Jim was announcing, we had fun going back and forth. We have a fun friendship, and he would say things to me in my ear during the show. He had a button that talked directly to me, and he'd make me laugh. And
Yep.
I'm going to say this to you, try to react or not react or whatever. So we had fun back together. He'd always say, let's go to the non-Freddie Miller, Dave Marquez.
Nice. Now, with you, obviously, we talked about this before with Rick Bassman when you were on his Talking Tough, the three-way dance. Wanted to mention the relationship with ROH back in the day when you were with New Japan, and we were joking around talking about 3 words that will haunt you and me forever: Dragon, Soldier, B. That horrible, horrible night in Asbury Park, New Jersey, at the Best of Super Juniors. I just wanted to bring that up to you again, just because literally still me and my buddy who was at that show, we still mention to this day the storm, terrible weather. We're sitting there soaked. But we think Danielson's going to win it, or maybe Gibson. Maybe he might win it. So you get the finals of Black Tiger and Dragon Soldier B. Like, okay, please, Rocky, Black Tiger, please. No, it's Kashin, but not Kashin. He's Dragon Soldier B. Why did you do that to us? You ruined it. You ruined a great show.
You can thank like Ricky Choshu for that. I think that was from Japan, and I was doing my job. I
Right.
didn't agree with it, but I was doing my job. And Gabe told me that night, Sapolsky, he says that I was the first in-ring suit ever in Ring of Honor. And I was wearing a horrible suit that night. I think it was brown. But I made a proclamation or something, and then I had to go out there and reverse a decision, I think, and Dragon Soldier B won. And then JB Noble comes running out and screaming in my face, the wrong man won this tournament. Like he's just
Yeah.
screaming in my face. And no one was happy that night. Punk wasn't happy. Samoa wasn't happy. Everyone was like, Dave, you gotta. And I was like, I can't. You guys knew before I got here what was gonna happen, so I can't.
Yep.
But it was not a fun night for any of us. That was not fun. And then we were left I think in the Newark airport with no tickets. There was no
Really?
hotel. We
Oh my
slept on the
God.
canvas. Rocky, all of us, Rocky, Danielson, Kashin, everyone who came from LA. Ricky Reyes had been there too, if I remember right. I'm not sure. But yeah, we were stuck and we had to sleep in the airport.
How did that happen? Like, what was the screw up there? New Japan screwed something up?
No,
Ring of Honor screwed something up?
yeah, didn't
Possibly
screw
on
it up.
purpose?
They
Yeah.
they just
Got a little revenge.
they just forgot that we had to go to
Right.
sleep in a bed. Poor
Bastards.
Kathy Fitz. Poor Kathy Fitz. She drove us to the airport and kicked us out.
Damn. It's just funny. You remember it all these years later. I mean, this is what 2005. It's 15 years later. I'm still remembering it. So at least it's memorable, right? I mean, at least I have that to hang on to, and you have that to hang on to.
I think I have a lot of those moments when people think of
Yeah.
me.
Yep. So as we wind it down and head towards the finish, I mean, we talked about you were at WCW, UPW, New Japan, NWA. What's kind of been your favorite like place to work in your favorite kind of territory? Like, what's kind of been some of your favorites out there? Because you've been, like you said, 30 years in the business is a pretty damn
Yeah.
long time.
I've enjoyed everything I've done. Like I have crazy Puerto Rico stories. I was down there a lot. Australia, getting Australia up and started again with UPW and Hartley Jackson and EPW. Hartley Jackson, he was in Adelaide. Mikey Nichols when he was just a little guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's all been good. It's all been rewarding. Like I'm a Los Angeles native, so to do something in my hometown is really cool. And for as long as we've been doing it, we've been doing the Hollywood show now for 10 years straight on television. And prior to that, we had NWA Pro Wrestling out of the Inoki Dojo. And then, I've always consulted for people don't know this. Like I was a producer and director on XPW for about 2 years. And then the stuff with UPW. Kevin Kleinrock is one of my best friends. So I hate LA wrestling. People love talking about West Coast or California wrestling. I hate it, which is why I've tried so hard to create my own brand here. Bar wrestling or PWG or lucha. Because when I came back from the Midwest in '99, it was that hybrid of lucha, indie wrestling that I'm here's this guy, me coming from Harley Race. Like I was looking at that, everybody to me in a derogatory sense, they were all wearing pajamas and masks and I just didn't understand what I had missed when I left California in like 93. So that whole period of territorial Mike LaBelle or even Jesse Hernandez, Bill Anderson, slammers wrestling, remnants of the Olympic Auditorium, like that completely disappeared. And then when I ended up with Bassman, he was way more traditional in the sense of, and professional, dealing with the WWF and whatever, that I fit in there. So I've had a real good time everywhere. The place I had the worst time was in Knoxville, Tennessee. Horrible. There's that area is cursed. There's no doubt about it. I don't think anything has ever worked there outside of the stuff in the 60s and 70s. It's a horrible place.
Not a fan of Knoxville, huh?
No.
Damn.
No, I lost my company, TV station, partners. Everybody thought they knew how to do it better. They even convinced Jimmy Cornette to be a part of it. I don't blame him at all. But it was horrible. I had a Fox station. We were doing a local show. It was looking really good. And this was only 7-8 years ago. So, Knoxville. Not a fan.
Oh, is this the promotion that they kind of screwed you out of your own promotion? Was this them? Okay.
Oh, yeah. We recreated Southeastern Championship Wrestling. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it was going good. It was going really good. And they kicked me out.
Right. It's cursed.
Kept the ring, kept the TV, whatever sponsors were left. And I think they were out of business within weeks of me being gone.
Wow. Damn. Stay away from there. You don't have an affiliate over there, right? It's
We're not in Knoxville right now.
Okay.
I mean, I think we might be on television in Knoxville, but we don't have a promotion we work with there. We're really working hard on Memphis and our Memphis show. We had an anniversary show set at the minor league baseball park in Memphis. And then, COVID happened and we had to refund everybody's money and the tickets were selling and all that stuff. But, little by little, it'll be back.
So with COVID and, the safety procedures and everything else, what do you think about like how much TV you're producing? You hope it's going to be slowly but surely have some fans entering. Like, what do you think is going to be like the policies and procedures kind of going forward? Are we going to see maybe 25% fans, 50%? I mean, how's it going to go forward looking for you guys?
I don't know. I'm taking my cues from Disneyland. So the state of California is going to put pretty high restrictions on theme parks and zoos, stuff like that. We have proven that we don't necessarily need fans to make entertaining programming, even though we'd love to have them. I'm not going to rush into it. I personally know 13 people who have died from this. So
Ooh.
I have a big network of people, so it's you know, it happens. And yeah, I'm going to go slow. And if they say, you know, you could have, based on the square footage, you're about 50 people, I'll put 50 people in there and spread them out for sure. It can't be any worse than having nobody there.
Yep.
So, but you know, you can't necessarily trust the public getting tested, and yeah, we can take their temperature and all that kind of stuff. And we're taking it pretty serious in our operation. I know there's others that don't take it serious, but like today, I found out one of our announcers was tested positive, and I was with them 4 days ago. So I went and got a test this morning. Um, I'll have another test next week, and I'll have a test on the 14th before the 15th to make sure that everything is cool.
Right.
Um, and you know, people are flying in from across the country into this, and so I have to take their word for it that they're negative. Hopefully, they have proof that they're negative. We'll
Right.
take their temperatures, and there is a COVID procedure at the stage if we really question it. There's a physician there too to administer a test if we need it done. But you know, for the most part, we're going to be very cautious. But if Disneyland, which I believe has an average day at Disneyland is 68,000 people in Disneyland Park, and if they cut that down to 25%, you know, and our average attendance at the Ocean View Pavilion is about 220, and if they tell us that, you know, we can only put 10 people in there, I don't know if it's worth it.
Right. Right. May not be worth the risk. Now, I know you're a big Disneyland fan. I've never been to
Yeah.
Disneyland. I've probably been to Disney World over 20 times. I was actually trying to figure it out, but I've been to Disney World a lot. I've never been to Disneyland. Have you been to
Mm-hmm.
both? Have you been to Disney
Oh
World? I
yeah,
know obviously land, but
I've worked at both.
oh, you have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Which is better? 'Cause
My first job ever, I was a Disneyland tour guide. So I wore the plaid,
ooh, yes,
and
yes, yeah.
uh, you know, to all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here, age relives fond memories of the past, and your youth may savor the challenge or promise of the future.
Nice.
Yeah,
Embroidered
I
in
did
your
that
head.
for.
Yeah.
I wrote 3 guided tours that they still play there. Um,
Oh,
but Disneyland, and hopefully, if you come out of California, I'll be more than happy to host you.
oh,
Disneyland embraces you when you walk through the gate. Real bear hug. You really feel it. Walt Disney World, Magic Kingdom, is so vast that I think it's exciting getting there, whether you're on a ferry or the monorail. I like Bay Lake. I like the idea
mhm.
of a voyage to get to the Magic Kingdom and things come into perspective, and you see, you know, Cinderella Castle peeking up over the train station as you're going in. But what's missing from Magic Kingdom is Walt Disney. He was never
Mm.
there. He didn't design it. He was all about Epcot, and the Epcot that's there, as we know, is not the Epcot that he wanted.
Yep.
Completely different concept.
Yep.
A World's Fair versus a prototype City of the Future. Um, when you're at Disneyland, there's so many movie tricks that are being played, forced perspective, the the attention to detail. It's not grand. I understand why Walt Disney World is grand. I get it, and those are the things I get hung up on. So when you're walking down Main Street USA in Anaheim and Main Street USA in Orlando, it is not the same experience. Um, it may be more grand. The castle might be much more taller,
Mhm.
or I wouldn't even say spectacular. I like the scale and cuteness of Disneyland. It's just it's made for 1950s television optics. It's when you watch the old shows in black and white, that castle just looks so amazing, and the perspective down Main Street just looks so great uh, that I could understand why every kid in America had to go to Anaheim, California in the 50s to see
Mhm.
Disneyland.
Yep.
Um, the way they sold it is just amazing. Florida, on the other hand, uh, I can't say one is better than the other. There's Florida still has a lot. The interesting thing is Florida has a lot more nostalgia of Disney Imagineering
Yes, all
type
that stuff.
things.
Yep.
So it's like in California, they really play on the principles that Disneyland will never be complete as long as imagination's left in the world. So it's not a museum. When you go to Florida, there's an awful lot of museum pieces, which I dig. I'm a gigantic Carousel of Progress fan, huge Carousel of Progress fan.
Mm-hmm.
So sitting in there from the 1964 World's Fair in New York to Disneyland to Magic Kingdom, like I went to Tokyo Disneyland just to see the Mickey Mouse Revue because I never saw it in Florida. So,
Nice.
I
Yeah.
saw it in Japanese. We don't have the Country Bears anymore here, so the Country Bear show is still in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
The Hall of Presidents to me is amazing. Anything audio animatronic is fantastic.
Yep.
I can sit through the Tiki Room, maybe not the Florida version, but Tropical Serenade I could not sit through. But the Enchanted Tiki Room in California is the same show from 1963, and those things are great. I would say our Haunted Mansion and our Pirates of the Caribbean is better. I think our Space Mountain is better.
Ooh,
I
really?
think I think Florida's Thunder Mountain is better. I know our Splash Mountain is better. And it could be the water tables or something. Florida, California, I don't know. But our Small World is definitely better. Yeah, I don't know. We have a lot more Rolly Crump. I think that's why our place is better.
Hmm. There's not a
we
there's not like a
Go ahead.
celebration out there, like Celebration Florida. There's not, which is like the town kind of. There's not
No,
nothing like that in Disney. Okay.
no. There's no land.
Yeah, right. I think that's
There
why that's the difference too. The vastness of it. They own
yeah.
everything in Florida. I mean, they own miles upon miles and miles.
I
And I
mean,
guess California is much much smaller as far as land
the
quality.
whole property in California is 160 acres, and they have two parks on 160 acres. Um, Magic King or Walt Disney World is twice the size of Manhattan. I think it's 27,000 square miles.
It's huge.
That's
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yep.
damn big, and they own the electric company. They are their own government. Everything is theirs. Roy was smart. Roy Disney, Walt's brother, was smart making that deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
But the other
massive.
parks too. Epcot now is becoming more commercial. The World's Fair side of it, the World Showcase side of it, Future World, that they're changing it. It's going to be more amusement park, IP
Hmm.
driven, which I don't like that. I really enjoyed hopping around, visiting those countries. The American Adventure to me, quite possibly, is the best Disney quintessential Disney show at Epcot. Fantastic show, if and this is nerd geek out stuff, but
Hmm.
when maybe it's the Revolutionary War era or George Washington, a horse, animatronic horse pops up on the stage, and I think it is Valley Forge, and I think the guy's shivering on top of this horse. But looking at the mane of the horse and the hair is blowing, steam is coming out of the animatronic's nose, steam is coming out of the horse's nose. It's just amazing. Like when I first saw it, I saw it on television on a special in the 80s. And like Mark Twain's smoking a cigar and he's blowing the smoke and he's blowing circles. I was like, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah. Yeah. They do some
So
amazing stuff down there. Yeah. Even Pirates of the
Shanghai,
Caribbean, it's scary a little bit. Like, what like that thing is real. Yeah.
yeah, well, Shanghai Disneyland, that Pirates of the Caribbean is beyond awesome. We'll never see anything like that in North America, but go to China just to see that.
Nice. See, I
And they
feel
have a
like I'm
Tron,
never.
but Florida's getting a Tron too, though.
Yeah, it's very soon. Yeah, I feel like I'm never gonna get back down there though. I mean, just with this COVID stuff, and Florida being or
Mm,
hotbed at one point for all the
mm.
COVID.
Give it a
I hope
couple
they open
years.
up. Yeah, I
Yeah, and
guess.
the best themed Disney park, I feel. I mean, I think Animal Kingdom is very well themed, but Disneyland Paris,
Really?
beautiful,
Hmm.
gorgeous, beautiful, and the best one worldwide, hands down. is Tokyo Disneyland.
Wow.
Tokyo Disneyland is, you can't match it. You can't beat it. Everything, cast members are gorgeous. The way they respect money, well, that's just Japanese in general, the way they exchange money.
Yep.
They are more Disney than Disney will ever be. I was sent there and we opened Tokyo Disney Sea in 2001. And just watching, we were supposed to go train them, but they're way more Disney than anybody here could ever imagine.
Wow. Nice. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I pretty much been, I think it was since 99, I want to say, like once a year, or if I skipped a year, I would go twice a year. So it's like almost 20 years in a row of something of it. I think it's going to end, the streak is probably going to end this year because I only have a few months left. But I think the streak will end there. But I mean, I love going down there. It's not just going down to Disney. I know I love the feel of it. You know what I mean? The atmosphere and everything. It's much more than like, oh, you know, you're immature. What do you like Disney for? You're an old man or whatever. Like, no, it's more than that. It's the atmosphere, it's the feel. Disney's awesome. I love it down there.
To me, it's just whether you're riding the carousel or you're in Florida. If you get on the Joel Fowler, here it's the Mark Twain. You know, that, or the railroad. That to me is ultimate fun, because you can see in a child's eye when they're riding on that. They've never been on a railroad. They've never been on a paddle boat. They've never seen any of that stuff. That's just great. And one thing I am sad about at Magic Kingdom is that, you know, Sunny Ray is gone. In the what was it? Cosmic Ray.
Cosmic Ray.
Cosmic Ray in the restaurant. He's gone.
That
was a great show.
He was a staple. And those chicken fingers in that place were the best.
Yeah. It's like, I went down there the last time, maybe 3 years ago. And I was like, oh, we got to go see Cosmic Ray. And they're like, what? That's cool. Like, it's gone.
Yeah.
So
why? I don't know. Has that ever been explained?
No. Disney doesn't explain a lot of stuff. When I worked for them, it was so frustrating. They want to empower you. They want you to do things. They want you to take ownership. And then the moment you do any of that, then you're in trouble. Like, it's a job. I mean, if you like being a guest, don't work there.
Yeah. It'll change you. You'll change your opinion on it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, and I worked in City Hall, so, you know, I was a guest relations, so we were just reading comment boxes, and it was difficult at times. You know, you get people who try to work you out of money or refunds or free food or like whatever they can figure out. When people found out what guest relations with the internet really does, people would go into City Hall and not know what it is. You know, oh, can I get a guide map? I know you guys give guided tours, pass for disabled guests, stuff like that. But when the internet, about 98, really started exposing what guest relations can do for you, forget it. The floodgates were open. It's like, oh, this is a complaint department. Let's go there. And I've heard everything, which was great because I had a wrestling background too. So I would just, in my head, write stuff and negotiate.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not buying, you know, your family's not going to Club 33. I'm sorry, but I'll certainly buy you all ice cream. You know?
Let's meet somewhere in the middle. Yeah, you're not going here. You don't want the ice cream. Let's meet in the middle. Yeah. Yep. Now, do you have a favorite ride out there? Is it Space Mountain?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I should put my tour guide vest on. There are only 2 rides at Disneyland. Can you name them?
Ooh, damn! No, I was going to think Space Mountain and Splash
attractions. Well, those are attractions and adventures.
Oh, okay.
What are rides?
It's a small world in the Haunted Mansion.
You guys, you had one taken away from you a couple years ago. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Right. Okay.
And out here we have the Indiana Jones Adventure Ride.
Oh, okay.
So, which is basically the dinosaur attraction in Animal Kingdom.
Mhm.
that I don't think is there anymore. Yeah, so those are the rides. But I mean, my favorite. I'm a show guy. Like I enjoy the shows, and as a tour guide, I've ridden everything more than I ever want to again. I mean, I had a ride. I had to go into the Tiki Room, uh, Pirates, the Railroad, Mr. Lincoln, which is uh, from the 1964 World's Fair. So it's Lincoln for 20 minutes. Just him. It's not the rest of the presidents, just him. Um, and then Small World, twice a day, 6 days a week, and pretend that I've never been on any of them. Boy, isn't this great? But
Yeah.
of all
Wow.
the shows that are there now, I can never get tired of the Tiki Room since I was a kid. I made my first
Wow.
trip to
Nice.
Disneyland
Okay.
in 73, 74. I was 1 or 2.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Well, I guess we should probably get back to the matter, the heart of the matter, and that is pro wrestling.
Why? Why?
I know, right? I know
No.
we want to stick on Disney, but NWA Primetime Live with you, UWN. Give us, one big final plug push why everybody should watch this great series that is coming out Primetime Live starting September 15th.
Well, all I can say is it's a true alternative to the other wrestling shows on the air. No bullshit. That's the truth. There'll be excitement. There'll be action. It'll be championship television. There'll be variety. It's everything that everyone is screaming about. In theory, I believe there's been lots of alternatives over the years. It's just the public not consuming it. It's there. They just don't go really looking for it. So I'm not going to say it's not going to be a show that you've never seen before. That's not true. But in recent times, I think it's going to be a cavalcade of stars and lots and lots of fun. I hope that the show was fun. I really hope people show up and say that was fun. Much like NWA Power,
Yep.
those fans, they had fun, and we made sure they had fun. So that's part of the reason why Power isn't in production right now, because the people, the fans, are a real big part of that show. If not the entire show, is the public.
Nice. And of course, we mentioned before Nick Aldis, Mike Bennett, first main event of the first show. I mean, it's going to be huge. And you said you got a lot of things coming down the pike. Thunder Rosa will be defending. Obviously,
Sure.
Hammerstone's going to be on the show. So Chris
Yep.
Dickinson's going to be on. I mean, it's going to be a lot of great stars. It's going to be like Battle of Belts meets Super Clash
Sure.
meets whatever. I mean, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
September
Yeah. Think
15th.
of it like the old Battle of the Network Stars on ABC. You'll have,
Mhm.
the
Yep.
gang from Who's the Boss taking on the gang from Taxi. It's kind of like
Yep.
that's kind of my mindset. Just go.
Love it. September 15th, Fight TV, and like you said, on traditional pay per view as well, in demand,
In
which
demand.
is great. So it's going to be on pay per view and internet
Yep.
pay per view as
And
well
and
on
it's
Fight.
and
Fight.
it's simulcast in Spanish. We made a big effort to make that happen. Um, I didn't see you come back in. Um, that's Logan again. Finishing the New Japan show. Uh, but we made a big emphasis on the Spanish side, and as soon as Mexico opens up through Kevin Kleinrock and Mass Republic, we really hope to have Lucha Libre on the program too. So we're working hard.
Awesome. Good stuff. And please give us some plugs for yourself. I know we're talking all about everybody else, but how about some plugs for yourself?
On Facebook, I'm David Marquez, but if you like the TV personality David Marquez, that's a private page. That's my page, personal page. So there's some things on there that you may not agree with and might, disrupt the character David Marquez that you see on TV. So there's just a disclaimer there. But more company centric at CWFH Marquez on Twitter, CWF Hollywood on Twitter, at United Wrestling on Twitter, at NWA, NationalWrestlingAlliance.com, HollywoodWrestling.com. Those same handles are on Instagram. And we do produce a lot of stuff. Oh, and a lot of faces and names Well, a lot of names you might not know, but by the time you see their faces, you might know who they are.
Yes, absolutely. Now, good luck to you with not only Primetime going on, Primetime Live, UWN, United Wrestling, Championship Wrestling from Arizona, Championship Wrestling from Harley. Good luck with everything going on because you are quite a busy man, maybe too busy.
It's it,
Maybe you got too much going on.
and you might be right. I do need a vacation. It's interesting. Like I make the Walt Disney analogies every now and again, but in reality, I think I'm the Hanna-Barbera of wrestling. So
Yeah,
you're just
yeah.
churning these things out
Yep,
and just getting them on TV. So
yep. All right, awesome stuff. And we will definitely be watching September 15th. FITE TV, in demand, prime time live. Good stuff, David. Thank you so much for all the time. I really appreciate it. Thanks, man.
sure, anytime, reach out anytime you like.
Cool. Thank you very much.